All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Countdown to Orientation webinar this evening. At this time, we are going to kick off our webinar. We do have some technical information on the screen there. If anyone is having technical difficulties, you do always have the option to call in. So you can use the audio both via your cell phone or your home phone, as well as, of course, the audio on your computer. I'll leave this up for just a moment. I will also mention that we are recording tonight's webinar, and so if anyone isn't able to join us, if you have family or friends who have questions after the fact, we do post the recording online. The webpage is www.montana.edu/admission/webinar. I would also encourage you to log in and check out all of the webinars that we have hosted throughout the semester as well. Throughout the evening, I am going to be presenting some information. We're going to have other staff members introduce themselves as we go as well. We do have a Q&A feature that is available. We encourage you to chat in those Q&As throughout the entire session. And then at the end, we are going to be answering the most frequently asked questions. And then we do also have a variety of staff members on the line here who are going to chat back answers to you as well. Please note that if anything doesn't get addressed tonight, or if you do have specific questions, you can always email us personally, admissions@montana.edu, or our main line there, 994-2452. And with that, I am going to kick off this evening's webinar. For those of you that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, or maybe those of you that I have met in person, it's wonderful to see you virtually. My name is Shannon Bangan. I'm the Director of Orientation here at Montana State. I do have my contact information up there. That's my personal line and my personal email, so please do not hesitate to reach out. And then we do also have Catherine on the line here. Catherine, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine. I'm the program coordinator for orientation here. I may have talked to many of you on the phone, and I'm excited to have you all here tonight. Thanks for coming.
Excellent. Thank you, Catherine. So we are a small team, but we're mighty, but we are not the only folks that will be able to assist you throughout this entire process. So I did want to point out that we are some of the professional staff members supporting orientation, but we do also have a variety of other folks supporting us throughout the year too. For today's webinar, we are going to hit on a variety of different things. We are going to start with what the orientation program is at MSU, the format and the dates for our upcoming summer programs. We do have some online components and some in-person pieces, so I want to describe what both of those look like and what to expect. We do have a parent and family member program, so I want to touch on that. We are going to show you how you can register. Some of you on the line may have already registered, which is excellent, and so we are going to show you how you can refer back to information and view all of the details of your session. We do also then have some important reminders as you lead up to your program, and then we're going to hit on those frequently asked questions at the end. I'll mention that we, as I mentioned, Catherine and I are the only professional staff members that support the orientation program, but we do also have a variety of admissions counselors and admissions staff that help us through. And then we do also have a really robust team of orientation leaders. So get excited because we are training all of our orientation leaders this semester and into the summer, and these friendly faces are going to be the ones to be able to help you throughout your in-person program. Orientation leaders are essentially peer mentors. They're the ones that can really share with you in their experiences, and they're really going to be able to help guide you throughout the sessions themselves. So in terms of what is orientation and what to expect. So our mission in terms of what the orientation program is on campus, it's a campus-wide effort that takes place between my office, academic advising, different academic units, campus resources, and so many more. And it really is to build a foundation for both academic and personal success here on campus. The vision is that after you attend orientation, students are going to be confident in their knowledge regarding any of the resources that they need to be able to be successful here at MSU and ultimately persist in terms of graduating and at the end of the day, graduating with a degree at MSU. The core function of orientation is to really make sure that you're set up for success, but also to make sure that you receive a fall 2023 class schedule. So that's going to be our goal, is that by the time you leave the orientation program, you have a class schedule in hand. In terms of the summer 2023 format, orientation is required for all incoming students, regardless of student type. Every single student comes through our office, and it's really viewed as a student's intent to enroll. So a lot of parents or students will contact our office and they say, do I need to put down a deposit? How do I tell you that I'm committing to MSU? And we actually view your registration for the orientation program as that intent to enroll, which is really exciting. So this is your chance to reserve your seat in our incoming class. There are 2 components for our freshman orientation sessions. So you will complete both an online pre-orientation as well as an in-person orientation session that takes place on the MSU campus. And both are mandatory. You can't simply complete just online orientation or just come in person, but it's expected that you complete that online pre-orientation in preparation for that in-person session. And by the time you complete both those pieces, you'll have a class schedule in hand. We do also then have an optional but concurrent parent and family program. It runs at the exact same time as our student programs. And so for any family members that are looking to learn more, we do encourage you to register for that parent and family program. And we'll talk about that a little bit tonight as well. I do want to highlight the dates here. We will kick off the online pre-orientation on May 1. So starting May 1, you're going to be able to log into that online pre-orientation and complete those items in preparation for your session. We have 3 sessions over the course of this summer. So our sessions in June and July, you'll hear us referring to those as our summer orientation programs. And then we do also have a fall orientation date, and that's going to be August 20th through the 22nd. And that date does coincide with move-in over the weekend, and then we kick off the first day of classes on Wednesday, August 23rd. For our online pre-orientation, it launches on May 1. So as early as May 1, students can log in. Students don't have to log in right on May 1, but the earlier you log in, the more time you're giving yourself to complete these items. It is in a platform that we have here on campus called CATS Connect, and it's essentially self-paced. So students can log in and progress through the modules how they would like. And so with that, you don't have to save the date or take work off or anything like that, but our online pre-orientation, you can log in on your own time. It's going to introduce you to MSU technology, remind you of some important checklist items. It's going to introduce you to some different themes and topics that will be covered during the in-person orientation. And then the deadline to complete the online pre-orientation is going to vary depending on what session you register for. So if you register for our June and July sessions, you are going to be asked to complete the online pre-orientation by the Wednesday prior. If you register for our fall August session, your priority deadline to complete the online pre-orientation is going to be June 30th. The online pre-orientation is essentially set up as modules, so you'll complete module 1 before progressing to module 2, and then so on. Our in-person orientation sessions are going to take place in June, July, and August. You have to complete that online pre-orientation leading up to the in-person program. The program is 2.5 days. So essentially for our June and July sessions, it's scheduled on Monday, Tuesday, and then a half day Wednesday. For our August program, it's scheduled on Sunday, Monday, and a half day on Tuesday. So 2.5 days. And during that time is where you're going to go through a variety of information sessions, small group activities. There's an info fair. It's your opportunity to connect with staff, faculty, orientation leaders, academic advisors, and by the end of the day, you walk away with that class schedule. You are going to be divided into a group based on your area of study, and so it's really important that we have your confirmed major on file in preparation for the in-person sessions. And then each group is going to be divided based on an orientation leader. So you'll have a specific group based on your major and your orientation leader, and you stick with that group throughout the duration of the program. For our June and July sessions, you are required to stay on campus. for our August session, you will move straight into your assigned residence hall for the fall semester. Lodging for our summer sessions is covered from Monday and Tuesday nights. So by registering for orientation, you already have those accommodations there. And then dining is covered, essentially 6 meals. And so you will be provided lunch on Monday all the way through breakfast on Wednesday. Cost is $135. That covers lodging, meals, it covers programmatic costs, our orientation leader pay, all of the mailings and all the materials that you receive during orientation. And so when you register for orientation, you'll complete that non-refundable fee. We do not receive, if we do not receive your fee when you register, your registration is considered incomplete. So make sure that you reach out to us if you have any questions about that. In terms of the schedule, you will be staying in the residence halls, eating in the dining halls. You'll be meeting a lot of other incoming students. That's one of the most positive pieces of feedback that we receive, is that orientation is a really wonderful time to meet new incoming Bobcats and friends. I am almost 30 years old and I still know people from my freshman orientation, so it's a wonderful way to kick off your collegiate experience. We do have a variety of group activities. You're going to be introduced to services and resources. There's an info fair, so you'll have the opportunity to connect with clubs, organizations, community service efforts, and then ultimately connecting with advisors, staff, faculty, and then of course that course scheduling piece. For those that are attending our summer sessions, you'll be checking in right around 8 to 10:30 on Monday and checking out by 2 p.m. on Wednesday. So we get a lot of questions from parents and family members about travel and booking travel and flights and things like that. So please plan accordingly so you can check in and check out for those in-person programs. We do get a lot of questions about the benefits of attending an earlier orientation. Am I going to be registering for classes during the orientation session 4? And so we really like to lay out for you the differences between our June and July session versus our August session. And so you'll see on the left for our June and July sessions, students complete the online pre-orientation by the Wednesday prior to their in-person session. They'll connect with faculty, staff. They'll stay in the residence halls over the summer. Orientation groups are going to be assigned based on your area of study, and you will have a specific orientation leader that is designated to you. You'll participate in info sessions, learning opportunities, and then during our June and July sessions, you will hand select your schedule and you will register for your classes in person. So you walk out of the June and July sessions with that schedule in hand. You then have the opportunity to basically complete all necessary items and ask questions well before the semester begins. And we do host the parent and family program as part of those June and July sessions. All of that, of course, allows you to participate in MSU debut welcome activities when you return in August. Our August program, on the contrary, is a little bit different. So essentially, you'll want to complete the online pre-orientation by June 30th. That's our priority deadline. You'll connect with MSU faculty, staff, and academic advisors, very similar to our summer sessions. You'll still have the chance to connect with someone in person. Rather than staying in the residence hall over the summer, you will move straight into your assigned residence hall for the fall. You will still have the opportunity to work with an orientation leader, but it's a little bit more hands-off just because we're kicking off the school year. You will still participate in a variety of info sessions, meet and greets. You'll still get every piece of information that you need to be successful. And then the major difference is that by attending our August session, you'll actually have a professional advisor that will take all of the information that you report in the pre-orientation, and they're going to provide you with a course schedule in advance of your in-person program. So at that point, session 4, you will be receiving your class schedule mid-August versus during your in-person program. Because you're attending our last session, you'll kind of finalize those last minute items during your in-person session when you're here on campus. We do still host a parent and family program in August, so parents and family members don't miss out on any opportunities there. And then you will still have the opportunity to participate in all those welcome activities. You don't lose that by attending orientation in the few days leading up to the session, so they don't conflict which is great. In terms of the parent and family orientation, parents have the opportunity to register for orientation when their student registers. So it's a part of the student registration form. If the student registered for orientation already, but did not register the parent or family member, you can still go back in and add your parent and family member. You will just have to email us at orientation@montana.edu, and we can send you that separate registration form. Program essentially coincides with the student program, but it's going to be a little bit different because it is separate from the student. So when students are coming through orientation, they're going to be with their orientation group and they are going to be going through their program. Parents are going to have very limited time to see their student throughout that time, but you're going to receive all of the same information that you need to be able to support your student here at MSU. Through the parent and family orientation, we do not provide lodging or meals. And so family members are encouraged to think ahead and you're ultimately responsible for that. With that being said, we do have a variety of recommendations, which we will touch on here in just a moment. And the cost of the parent and family fee does go towards a parent and family brunch. There's a social, there's programmatic costs. So there is some of that that's built in, but ultimately the parents and family members that attend orientation are responsible for their own lodging. I will mention that the benefit of coming is that you hear a lot of different information that parents and family members find so useful. I know a lot of parents say, oh, I attended an MSU Friday. Do I need to come to orientation? It's actually very different because it's a little bit more geared towards how to support your student here at MSU. And you also get to meet a lot of other parents of incoming students as well. And so I was actually just reading on the Bobcat Parent and Family Facebook page, a parent had asked, should I come to orientation? And all the parents were just commenting that it was the #1 thing that they would recommend and that they so enjoyed it. And so I would really consider, if you have the availability and the willingness to consider signing up. Essentially, check-in is going to be at the same location during the student orientation, and we'll send out a lot of information about that as well leading up to the session. I will mention that if any family members cannot make it to parent and family orientation, that's totally okay. We do encourage you to check out the different resources that we send you. We have a parent and family page that we will post a lot of different orientation resources on. And so family members really find this helpful when considering checklist items and final to-dos, confirming their bill, general reminders for their student. And so we would encourage you to check out that resource page. I will also mention that the Bobcat Parent and Family Program is a program that is hosted through our Dean of Students office. That's your opportunity to receive updates throughout your time as a parent. So that continues all the way through your students' 4 years, and it really just kind of hits the high points of what's happening on campus and things that you need to be aware of as a family member. Parents Weekend is going to be in October. They already have the dates posted for 2023. So if you're a planner and you already want to look ahead, please go to the Bobcat Parent and Family webpage and you can already see that information for the fall semester. At this time, we are going to turn it over to Catherine. Catherine is going to talk through a little bit more of the logistics of how to register and how to view your information once you have completed the registration. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. So as Shannon said, I'm just going to be giving a little bit more detail and overview of how to actually register for orientation. And then how to view the details of the session that you sign up for. So there are sort of 5 main steps to this process that were mentioned on the previous slide, if you want to, go back really quick. And we're just going to dive into these really quickly and go into a bit more detail on each of them. So you can go to the next one. So before I get into it, I want to say that you definitely don't have to like frantically write down everything that's going to be said because we have really clear orientation registration instructions that are laid out on our website. And it's sort of a step-by-step guide. And if you just search orientation registration instructions in montana.edu, it should be the first page that pops up. So here is what it looks like. You can see right there, there's those 5 steps that I mentioned earlier, very clearly laid out, telling you how to get through each different point of the process. And just a little tip, it can be helpful to keep these instructions open in one tab so you can refer back to them as you go through the step-by-step. You can see step 2 here is to claim your net ID, and I just want to talk a little bit about what that means. So your net ID versus your student ID, these are 2 different identifiers that every MSU student has. Your net ID, which is what you need to claim, is a combination of letters and numbers, and this is what you're going to use to log into a lot of MSU's main technology services throughout your 4 years. So you will need to set this up in order to log into MyInfo for the first time, which is where you'll register for orientation and find other important information. And then your student ID, also called MSU ID or GID, is an 8-digit number with a dash in front of it. This can be found on your acceptance letter, and it can also be found in MyInfo. So here are some examples of what it's going to look like when you click into MyInfo. This on the sort of middle right is the main MyInfo login screen. It's kind of got a lot of words, but you can see circled there is where you're going to log in. And then right below that is where you'll click in order to claim your net ID. And then once you do claim that net ID and set up that password, down in the bottom right, that is what it will look like when you're actually logging in. And then once you're in, this is what MyInfo looks like. It's the home page, and there's a lot of really useful information on here for students. But for registering for orientation, what you're going to want to click on is that undergraduate admissions checklist. And then this is your MyInfo checklist. There is a ton of really helpful information on here. It can help you keep track of what you've done and what you still need to do in getting ready to arrive at MSU. And these checkboxes along the left are filled in by our system. It's not something that you go in and check off, but our system will check it off once we have received whatever it is, housing application, test scores, etc. So it can be really helpful to keep track of what you've done throughout the process. And if you see down there in the lower right, in the orientation class registration section, this is where you're going to register for orientation. So you want to be sure to click down within the box where it says click here to register, and not in the link above. Sometimes people click on that, but that just leads to our general website. So once you click on that, this is what the registration form looks like, and you're ready to register for orientation. So it should auto-populate your student ID or your GID in there for you. And as you're filling this out, make sure that all of your personal information is correct, that the mailing address is right. And also, we definitely recommend that students, when you're filling this out, make sure that your parents are aware of which session you are registering for, just to be sure that you are on the same page. And scrolling down the form a bit more, this is what it looks like. It will show you the dates. And I also want to emphasize that the form is interactive in the sense that the dates of the orientation sessions will not appear until you answer the previous questions. So if you're looking at the form and you don't see the dates popping up, don't worry, just keep filling out the form and those dates should appear for you. And then on the right here are just some check boxes. The first one is an agreement that you understand you'll be staying on campus. The second was an opportunity to let us know if you require any special accommodations due to a disability. And then lastly, you have the opportunity to indicate whether your parent or family members will be coming. And that is going to be a $50 non-refundable fee, regardless of whether it's one parent or 2 parents or an entire family. It's just going to be $50. And once you submit that, it'll take you to this, the payment portal. So this $188 that you see, that is the $135 orientation fee, plus the $50 for parent orientation, and then $3 processing fee. And I do want to emphasize that in in order to complete your registration, you must submit the payment. We sometimes have situations where students will submit the previous form with their personal info and then get to this screen and don't complete the payment portion, but your registration will not go all the way through in that case. So be sure to submit that payment. And then once you have, your registration is complete, and it will show you this page down in the lower right, and circled there in red is the link to your confirmation page. So the confirmation page will have all the details and information that you need for your session, can be a really helpful resource and a page to refer back to. But don't worry, because you'll always have access to it. You don't have to like copy down the link or anything, because when you go back into your MyInfo checklist after registering, it now will have the link to that confirmation page instead of the link to register. It's not an instantaneous update process in MyInfo, so don't worry if you register and then you don't see your checklist update right away. It can take a couple of business days, but we will also mail you a physical confirmation letter that has a lot of information, as well as the typed out link to that confirmation page, so you'll always be able to find it. And here is just a screenshot of what the confirmation page looks like, all the details that you will need to know, as well as the FAQ page. We have a really extensive list of FAQs that can be a super helpful resource as questions come up, because if you're having a question about orientation, most likely someone else has also had that question or is having that question this year. So we've done our best to answer a lot of those questions and have it on our website for you. So we definitely encourage you to read through that. And then lastly, if you are in need of any additional accommodations, if you require financial assistance in paying for orientation, we do have a fee waiver request form that you can submit, and we will review those to possibly waive that fee for you. If you would like to stay on campus for additional nights, as a student, you can request to stay an extra night on either side of orientation, so the night before or the night after. And if you're a parent looking to stay in a residence hall during your parent orientation, you can request a room on campus for $50 a night. And that will be on our summer orientation housing page. And if you require any other special accommodations, you can indicate that by checking the box on the orientation registration form, as well as emailing us with more specific details. So that's just a little bit about the orientation registration process, and I will hand it back to Shannon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. I do want to remind you all of some important details as we head towards your orientation sessions. So the most important thing is going to be making sure that you're logging into that undergraduate admissions checklist and you're regularly looking at what items you still have left and what items you need to complete. We do also encourage you to check the confirmation page. As Catherine mentioned, that is going to include all of the information you could possibly want to know, like what should I bring to orientation? Where am I parking? Where do I check in? All of that information is on there centralized for you to reference. We do encourage you to know your net ID and student ID. That will come up during your in-person session as you log into different technology or talk to different staff members. One important note is that because class registration takes place as part of the orientation program, we encourage you to send any official transcripts, test scores, or college level credit our way. We do not need your high school transcript on file by the time that your in-person orientation takes place. We do, of course, need your official high school transcript to be sent following graduation. But if that high school transcript is still arriving during orientation, it does not impact your orientation experience. On the contrary, if you have a transcript from another institution or AP scores or IB scores that need to be sent to us, please make sure that you have official copies sent to MSU. That's definitely going to impact course scheduling. We also encourage you to have unofficial transcripts available. So even if you just finished a course last week, please have that transcript available with you. You can bring it with you and show it to us in person as well during your session. We understand that you may not have AP or IB scores that are official yet because some of you might be taking them in the spring semester. That's okay. We work with students every single year. You're still going to be able to receive a class schedule. And lastly, when it comes to ACT and SAT scores, we do encourage you to send those for course placement purposes. It is not a requirement for admissions and scholarship purposes, but by having the ACT, SAT on file, it's going to help us understand where your strengths are and where you ultimately might need a little bit more assistance through your course schedule. In terms of immunization records, we do require a TB screening form and a health history form be completed. Those need to be completed by the time that you participate in your orientation session. We can't register you for classes if there's a hold on your account. And so we do encourage you to complete those and send those materials well in advance of your session. If you have a preferred email address in My Info that might be changing, for example, some of you might have a school email address on file. We would encourage you to make sure that that's up to date leading up to orientation. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we divide groups during orientation based on your area of study, and you're going to receive a class schedule based on that major. So we encourage you to do a little bit of major exploration and think through exactly what you might want to study leading up to your session. If you are a little unsure, or if you're still choosing between 2 or 3 options, we would highly encourage you to consider our University Studies program. Our University Studies program is essentially our undeclared route, or working with an advisor who knows all of our different areas of study, so we can get you into a course schedule that helps you feel that you can still explore different interests while you decide exactly what major is right for you. So as a reminder, for the fall 2023 semester, you complete that online pre-orientation, kicks off May 1, and the due date is going to vary based on the session that you register for. Your in-person orientation is going to be based on the date that you select. The dates are listed on the right-hand side there. So there's 2 sessions in June, 1 in July, and then 1 in August, right over the course of school starting. Parking permits go on sale August 1st. We get a lot of questions about when students can purchase a parking permit. As long as you have registered for an orientation session or registered for classes already, if you attended a summer session, you'll have the ability to purchase a parking permit. As long as you have registered for an orientation session, you should be able to purchase a parking permit when they go on sale August 1. Move-in will then kick off over the weekend, so August 20th and 21st. MSU debut will then kick off with a variety of different welcome events, which I'll touch on here in just a moment. Classes kick off on the 23rd of August. And finally, we get a lot of questions about when we need to confirm their bill. Students will need to confirm their bill at the latest by the 15th day of classes. So we encourage you to keep that in mind as you progress throughout the beginning of the semester. MSU Debut is a series of engagement events that kick off the school year. They are all focused around making sure that you feel like you have a strong understanding of MSU resources, you're meeting other incoming Bobcats, you're a part of our history and our traditions, and you have a sense of community here at MSU. A few of them to note: Paint the M is going to be a community service event that takes place. That's where our students all go up to the M on Mount Baldy, and then they paint our M every single year. Catapalooza is our large-scale info fair that takes place in the first few days of school starting, and that's where you're going to see every single club, organization, Bozeman community business. It's a great opportunity to learn more about our community. We do have the Gold Rush football game, which is where everyone wears gold. It's an inaugural football game for the year. Convocation, this year we are bringing Stephanie Land. She is an author who currently resides here in Montana, and she is going to be speaking on August 22nd. And there's so many more to note. I encourage you to check out our MSU Debut website and get excited, because these are all the things that we are going to kick off to welcome you to campus. So at this time, we are going to answer some frequently asked questions for you all. These are the ones that we most commonly get, but I do also encourage you to keep chatting in those questions, and we're going to do the live questions after we cover these big ones for you. So to start, Catherine, well, I'll start with the first one. How do I know what classes I need to register for? So students are, of course, encouraged to explore their major and look at the curriculum that they have outlined based on their area of study. With that being said, when you come to orientation, a big part is working with an advisor on making sure that you're in classes that are going to keep you on track for your major degree requirements, but also allows you to explore interests and make sure that it's fulfilling what you want to do long term. As part of pre-orientation, we are going to have a pretty robust student survey, and that survey asks about scheduling needs and interests, long-term goals, everything you could possibly need. And so it's really critical that you fill out that information, especially our orientation session 4 students, because that's going to allow an advisor to register you for the classes that both fit your needs and keep you on track for your degree. Catherine, do I have to stay on campus for orientation? And you are muted right now.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes, you are required to stay on campus during orientation. For students coming to a June or July session, we will provide housing for you for Monday and Tuesday nights. And we will assign you a room and a random roommate. We do not take requests for that. For students coming to the August session, you will move directly into the residence hall that you've been assigned to for the year. So you are required to stay on campus. It's a really exciting way to get a taste of what campus life is like. And then also for parents have the choice. They can stay on campus if they would like while they're attending the parent orientation or make their own arrangements.
Awesome, thank you. Can I register for classes before orientation? For those of you that register for our June and July sessions, you will not be registering for classes prior to joining us for those in-person sessions. For those that are registered for our orientation session 4, you are going to complete that really robust student survey. So then your advisor is going to be able to register you for classes and then release your schedule mid-August, right before you then join us on August 20th. Are there benefits to attending an earlier orientation session? So by attending our June and July sessions, you are going to have the chance to stay on campus and meet other incoming students, faculty, staff. You essentially kind of complete all those checklist items during your time on campus. And so a lot of the time students just generally feel a little bit less overwhelmed by attending one of our summer sessions because they've kind of knocked off all those items before they come. With that being said, we do gradually release classes throughout the summer. And so students that come to an orientation 4 session are still going to receive a full schedule of classes. But by attending an earlier orientation, you essentially have a little bit more flexibility in your course scheduling. So if you're an engineering student, for example, you're always going to be registered for calculus because it keeps you on track for your 4 years. But if you have calculus only offered at 8 a.m., then ultimately we're going to have a little bit less flexibility as we get closer to the start of school versus more choices in June and July. So regardless of what orientation session you attend, you will always receive a full schedule of classes. You're always going to get into any course that you need in order to stay on track for your degree program. But if you're really passionate about course scheduling, you have the ability to come to one of our earlier sessions. And Catherine, what if I need to change which session I want to attend?
So if you need to change which session you want to attend, just email us at orientation@montana.edu. But this will depend on whether there is space in the session you're looking to move to. So if there is space, we will be able to move you.
What if I don't have my final transcript or my test scores back in time by the time I attend orientation? So again, we do not need your final high school transcript on file for orientation. We still need you to, of course, send it. We'll need it on file long-term, but we do not need it by your orientation session. For those of you that have college level credit or AP or IB scores, we ask that you send official transcripts once your final grades have posted, and you have those sent directly from the awarding institution straight to us or the testing agency straight to us. It's considered unofficial if you're just like handing us a transcript yourself. but those unofficial transcripts are really nice if you have those during your in-person session too, because then we can walk through those and talk through those while you're here on campus with us. Catherine, do you have a set capacity for our orientation sessions?
Our sessions do each have a capacity, and once they fill up, we will manage wait lists after that point. So we definitely say that registering earlier will give you some more choice in terms of which session you want to attend, and sessions tend to fill up starting around mid-spring.
When will I take my math placement or writing placement assessments? So as part of the online pre-orientation, we do have a math assessment and a writing assessment. And so if students are encouraged to take those, it's all going to kick off as online orientation kicks off. And so starting May 1, students will have more information, more instructions on how to log in and access those. Catherine, maybe you want to take this next one. When must I complete online pre-orientation by?
Yeah, so for students coming to a June or July session, the deadline to complete the online pre-orientation is going to be the Wednesday before your session. And for students coming to the August session, the priority deadline to complete it is June 30th, so that we can get that info for the pre-registration as soon as possible. But for students who continue to register over the course of the summer, we will work with those students.
And then the final question, can I get a copy of the orientation schedule in advance? We post a lot of information on that confirmation page. We kind of post tentative schedules so you have a better idea of timing and what sessions to expect on what days, but we do not post a final schedule. You'll receive those when you check in at orientation. That's just because we're still firming up all those final details all the way up until the sessions in June, July, and August. So you can check any information that you need about orientation scheduling on that confirmation page. At this time, we are going to have Anders or one of our admissions staff members pop on. They're going to share some of the questions that you guys have been chatting in so we can answer those live. Before I turn it over to him, I did just want to highlight this is our direct contact information. If you're interested in reaching out to Catherine or myself, please do not hesitate to email us. You can always also email our main orientation line, and that's going to be orientation@montana.edu.
Everybody, my name's Anders. You've heard from me a few times this evening in the chat and in the Q&A. We've been monitoring, and thank you all so much for engaging with us tonight. Thanks for tuning in and asking these questions. It's been a wonderful opportunity to connect with you. And thank you, Shannon and Catherine, for an awesome presentation, comprehensive and super insightful. So I appreciate that on behalf of everybody. Shannon, if it's all right with you, I actually want to start with some of the questions that were submitted on the registration forms when folks were signing in. And this kind of came up throughout the night as well. If we know that we can only attend a specific June or July session, should we register now? Is there risk of a session filling up? Go from there.
Yeah, so we do have a capacity, as Catherine mentioned. So by signing up for orientation earlier, you do have your option of dates. So if you're really passionate about attending a particular session date, please, we encourage you to register early. With that being said, we typically don't reach capacity until mid-spring, so maybe March, April, so you do have a little bit of time. I can't guarantee how quickly everyone's going to register, of course, because that's just general human behavior, but in the past, we typically see right around March or April is when we start to reach capacity.
Awesome, cool. I'm gonna kind of combine a couple of different questions from both the forum and the live chat. Are there hotel discounts available for families attending? I think you spoke about that earlier. And then the follow-up to that is, if a parent and family member wants to stay on campus, A, when does registration open for summer housing? And B, can a sibling member do that as well, like a younger sibling stay on campus for summer as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we do have essentially two different options for parents and family members, right? You can either stay on campus or off campus. If you'd like to stay on campus, when you're on the main orientation webpage, it's just montana.edu/orientation. if you scroll down, there is a button that says accommodations, and that's going to bring you to that web page that Catherine mentioned is an opportunity for you to register for on-campus housing. So whether it's a student that would like to arrive early or stay late, or a parent and family member that would like to stay on campus, it's all the same form. It's already live, so you can go on there and request that information now. I will mention that I spoke with the conference services and the housing team today, and they do have one little tech hiccup that I know that they're overcoming. So if you are going through that process and you encounter any issues, their contact information is listed directly on the left panel. And so you can reach out directly to their office. We're happy to take down any of that information. And then we can obviously, of course, follow up with you once those tech issues are resolved. In terms of staying off, or excuse me, and that does also include siblings, any family members, anyone that would like to join the student as well. In terms of staying off campus, we do have recommendations for lodging. There are some different MSU discounts available, and so parents and family members can go onto that orientation webpage. They can click on our recommended lodging page and they can see any of the local hotel options listed. I do know that Bozeman is kind of the hot spot to visit in the summer, and so by reserving those hotel reservations early, you're kind of guaranteeing that you have a place to stay off campus. So either on campus or off campus, it totally depends on the parent or the family member, but just know that we would love to have any family members join us through that program.
Cool, thank you. I'm just gonna kind of rip through a couple of different special interest sessions. People have asked about like learning differences, coming in with any sort of learning difference or learning accommodations. Is there gonna be a session on that?
A session during orientation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so what I would recommend is that when you are registering for orientation, there is that box that's generated that says, I would like my information provided to the Office of Disability Services to talk about any accommodations during orientation. So if you check that box, you'll already be connected with the Office of Disability Services. So that's a great way to get in contact with them first. Then during the orientation sessions themselves, we do have sessions that take place that allow students to learn a little bit more about that process, what accommodations look like at the collegiate level, how to transition some of that documentation from high school to college. And that's both a session that is available for students as well as family members that are supporting their students through that process.
Cool, right on. One question that came in, how long, ballpark it, how long does the online orientation take? Like how many modules are there?
Yeah, so I would say that really depends on the student because there are many items that if you have been following your college search process and keeping up with turning in materials and keeping on top of deadlines, that at that point you can simply check off knowing that you've completed them. We roughly say it's about an hour to go through the process, but then if you need to complete additional assessment items such as math placement or writing placement, they should also leave aside about an hour for those. One thing I didn't mention that I always like to highlight is that the online pre-orientation does not need to be completed all in one sitting, right? And so students can log in, they can log out, and we actually encourage that because students are going to get more out of their experience if they're ready and prepped by the time they're logging in, they're focused, and then they can take a little bit of time away instead of just sitting down and completing the whole thing in a series of 3-4 hours.
Cool, right on. Shannon, here's your favorite question. Can parents discuss classes with their students before they register? Can they be with their students when they register for classes?
Oh, that's a great question. We love family support. We love that you're here to support your student through that process and that you're engaged with them. With that being said, we really see this as the first step to your student owning their educational experience and really learning how to utilize MSU resources and services and how to connect with those advisors. Because a lot of the time, those advisors are also going to be ones that they continue to work with. And so building that relationship is really important. There is going to be time during the orientation sessions where students and family members can connect. It is pretty limited. The sessions themselves are going to be separate, but they will have time if the student really feels like they want to just explain to their parent what they talked with their advisor about or ask a question about, what do you think is best for me? You know me best. But we ultimately mark off the registration labs. And so parents and family members are not allowed in the registration labs when students are completing that final step.
Cool. This is a great question because it really dominoes into the entire program and the entire experience. What's the best way for me to change my major before orientation?
Yeah, Catherine, do you maybe want to touch on that one if they need to change their major? I believe you are still muted.
Sorry about that. If you need to change your major, there should be a link in your MyInfo checklist. And you're going to want to definitely fill that out before you come to orientation. So it'll just be on that MyInfo checklist that I went over before. There should be a link that says change major.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
And if I could add one more thing too, I'll mention that anything that you might complete on the admissions checklist is typically a manual process. And so please just recognize that if you submit a update term form, a major change form, your orientation registration, math placement, all of that is going to be processed within 24 to 48 hours afterwards. So just by signing up for orientation doesn't mean that it's immediately going to be checked off, or just by changing your major, you won't immediately see it change. But please keep in mind that we received that information, we'll process it as quickly as we can, and then it'll reflect a few days later.
Cool. Right on. This is, let's see, actually, there's a couple of string of questions. Dual enrollment students. Is there, because they're coming in with college credit, is there any sort of timing difference in when we need their their transcripts if they're attending in June or July or in August to build those in?
Yeah, so we have a priority push that we will continue to email out as you register for orientation, as you commit to MSU, where we encourage students as much as possible to submit any official transcripts or materials or test scores by June 15th. By having that information officially on file by June 15th, it allows all of our orientations to go a little bit more smoothly. With that being said, if you do not have official copies, as I mentioned, bring unofficial copies, bring information about your final transcripts that you have sent them. And so we can continue to work with students on that piece if they're in the process of sending those official materials.
Awesome. Cool. And then this is a little bit more about kind of just the courses themselves. Shannon, I know you're in a bunch of these meetings, and I know it's a big point of apprehension. If I'm coming to August orientation, am I going to get my classes? I know that the pre-registration process that you discussed, but just talk a little bit about those meetings that you're in and what MSU does to make sure that students are in the things that they need.
Yeah, so courses are gradually released throughout the entire summer. So just by coming to the first session versus the last session doesn't mean that the classes are immediately going to be filled up over the course of the summer. We essentially up caps as the summer goes on, so students have the opportunity to receive a comparable schedule regardless of which session they go to. We do guarantee that students are going to receive a course schedule that keeps them on track for their degree program. So I use engineering as an example, but similarly, nursing, like let's say you have to be in a chemistry class or something like that, we're going to make sure that you get into that because that's what is required and expected for you for your major. By coming to an earlier session, if you're really passionate about picking out your courses yourself and the exact schedule, June and July might be a better fit for you. On the contrary, that survey that is a part of online orientation is really robust. And so if you sign up for our August program, advisors are going to go through and they're a human being selecting that schedule for you. So they're going to make sure that you're not all just in classes from 8 to 5, but it looks like a reasonable schedule. It's a reasonable credit load. It's a reasonable balance. In some ways, you as a student might know your learning style best, but we know our classes best. So we can really say it makes sense that you take this class in this order, or that this class maybe is really demanding with writing, so we don't want to register you for this other course at the same time. And so by attending that August session, we're going to give you a really nice hand-selected schedule from an advisor based on the information that you give us.
And if I could just throw in my own 2 cents, this is a really exciting change for Montana State University, and I think it's really going to tailor fit us for a lot of different students out there. Going back in time, if I could have been told that somebody was going to register for my classes for me and I was going to be in everything that I needed, there's no doubt in my mind that I would have chosen August orientation because it would have taken one thing off my plate. Other students are different, but I think it's a really cool change that we're making. So kudos to you and your team. Last two things that I'll throw at you, sort of about academic advising. There was a lot of questions that came in about just being undecided, you know, in terms of, I guess specifically, or maybe primarily about that August orientation session. How do we go about helping students who are undecided identify what's best for them? And if we're going to be doing the registration for them, really, how does that process take place?
Yeah, so whether it's university studies being undeclared or even some of our majors that are maybe a little bit less structured in what you might need to take your first few semesters, that's something that our advising team is really mindful of and continues to consider with this process. With that online survey, it asks you about interests, strengths, scheduling needs, other considerations. If you would rather take this class or this class, it's gonna be really robust because advisors need that information for you to then be successful. What I will mention is that with that class schedule that's then released mid-August, when you come in person, if there's anything that needs to be adjusted or changed, we can work with you in person during your August orientation on the 20th through the 22nd. So let's say we have information about math placement on one date and we register you and then you send us your transcript and your math placement has changed. During that in-person session on the 20th through the 22nd, we would make any necessary schedule changes.
Awesome. And because we're approaching the top of the hour and we want to be respectful of everyone's time, I want to wrap up by asking Shannon, because she's been so involved with the program as a student leader, and now as the director of our orientation program, for the students out there that might be in that decision mode, right? They haven't made their college decision yet. Tell them about the value of your program and what it does for setting them up for success and building community. And if you could kind of nutshell it, tell us about orientation that would help them make up their mind to come here.
Yeah, I could take that question in so many different ways. We always say that orientation is still recruitment in a lot of ways, right? Students come to us in June or July, and sometimes if it, isn't the right fit, then they wouldn't end up enrolling in August or something like that. That's a very rare circumstance. A lot of the time students have such a wonderful experience, but that's why we really find value in our program, because it eases you into this process. It introduces you to the college experience in a safe environment that allows you to be comfortable and confident when you return in August. Similarly, with our August programming, it's leading you in through that online orientation, giving you your schedule a few days in advance, and then welcoming you when you come here. As I mentioned, I came to MSU in 2012 and I graduated in 2016, and I've been involved in the program since 2014 now. And I still have friends to this day that I met during my freshman orientation 11 years ago. So the value itself is feeling the sense of community, feeling welcomed, meeting your advisor in person. That advisor is going to be the one that signs your graduation paperwork 4 years down the road. It's a really beautiful process, and that orientation and graduation essentially bookend your collegiate experience. Orientation is one of the only few times that you are with your entire incoming class. And the next time that you will really be all sitting together again will be 4 years later when you get your degree. And so I think that the value alone is just that it really serves as that ceremonial welcome or that transition as you make this life change. And that's for family members as well.
That's awesome. I echo all of that. And I thank you both, Catherine and Shannon. Thank you so much for tonight. Thank you in advance for everything that you're going to do this summer for our incoming students. Thanks you to everybody who's joined us this evening for this Countdown to Orientation webinar. I'll get out of the way, and Shannon, I don't know if you have any closing remarks. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. We'll be sending out the recording tomorrow morning. So for anybody who hopped on late or had to hop off early, we'll have this information. But I'll get out of the way. I'll let you close and sign off. So thank you all.
Yeah, I would say my final closing remarks would just be, please do not hesitate to reach out to us via email, phone call. Catherine, myself, the students, all of our admissions team, which has been on the line helping us with chat all night, we're all here to help you. We know that every single student circumstance is different. All of you have different backgrounds, different educational experiences, different familial support. You're all coming from different places. And so we really want to make sure that you have the information you need to make this decision and to make sure that you feel ready to start your time at MSU. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a good rest of your evening, and we hope you decide to join us at MSU. Thanks.